Hey, good morning, my friends. How are you today? I hope that the internet stays with us. I'm outside near a Starbucks. Didn't quite make it to the office, but I'm close. I'm pretty close. Anyways, how are you? How's it going? Happy Tuesday. Yes, I'm coming to you live in my car. This seems to be one of the quietest places I can go. As long as I get internet reception, we're all good. And I've been wanting to jump on here and talk about a subject that's kind of difficult. I'm sure when you woke up this morning, you're like, oh, yay, let's talk about trauma. It's not something that we all really want to talk about, but it's something that inevitably happens to almost everybody. So if you're just jumping on, I'm Gina Tabrizy. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California only. And hi there, John. How are you? And I started these lives 8 months or more ago. I don't remember now. It's been a long time. Hi, how are you, Brenda? So I throw a topic out there. I talk about it. You guys chime in and ask questions. I do want to say that a lot of you have been very vulnerable and sharing really deep and personal stories about trauma and tragedy and your struggles, and I just want to honor that. And hi, Wesley, and respect. Hi, Brenda. You're welcome. I want to show my admiration and respect to you for being so vulnerable, even though I know, it's social media, you can't see each other, but you certainly can learn each other and find out a lot about each other through your profiles and comments. And hi there, Sarah. I think it takes a tremendous amount of courage and vulnerability to get on social media and talk about anything. Hi, Julie. Hey, this is so cool. Thank you, guys. You can see the Starbucks behind me. Oh, and Subways. Hey, that makes me hungry. Anyways, I got a comment recently. Hi, Dr. Mina. I got a comment recently. Hi, Raquel. About someone who wanted to kind of make fun or criticize me for being all over the place. So those of you who have been watching for a while, I always say I'm ADD. So I start here, I go over there. Ultimately, I cover the subject. Hi, Kristen Briscoe. And I try to inform you. This is a public service. I'm great, Amir. I hope you're good too. You have a cool name, Amir Shahzad. Very nice. Hi, Zoab. Good to see you. So I cover these topics. It's, we'll call it psychoeducation. It's done to educate. It's done to guide and inspire. I am not acting as a therapist to anyone on this live. I am just giving you information that hopefully, hello again, Dr. Mina, hopefully inspires you to get help, some kind of counseling or support, a 12-step program in your area. Because someone asked me the other day, do you think everybody needs therapy? And I'm like, yeah. Therapy is just kind of like going to the gym. It's working out your emotional muscles. Like, we might go see a doctor to help improve our mood, to help improve our health, our fitness, our energy, our overall well-being. So you can do the same thing for your head. And going to a therapist is like exercising the muscle of your brain and your emotional self. Hi, Connie. How are you? I'm doing good. Good morning, Seattle, Renice, and Brenda. Thank you, Brenda, for saying that. So you know what? Therapy is like getting an education for yourself. It's exploring where you're at in your life. It's taking an inventory, and it's allowing you to move forward in places in your life that maybe you're stuck. So don't think of it like back in the day when I was going to school and they'd say, therapy is just for people that are crazy. It's not. It's for people that want to be well, are well, and trying to do better in their life. That's the way that you should look at it, okay? Thank you, Amir. So listen, the topic today, on Tuesdays, I go live for 15 minutes if you've never seen this before. So I'll be off probably in about 10 now. Hi, Bernardo. And the live today is about trauma, anything less than nurturing. Have any of you heard of Pia Melody? Hello, my gosh, some new people. Kadir Arman, Salvacion. Hello. I'm sorry if I'm not getting your names good. Brenda, being positive. Thank you, Brenda. So I got to get one of those little stands for my car phone. I'm literally holding it with my hand. Hi. So anyways, Pia Melody. Pia Melody was a counselor. She started off as a nurse, actually, in the field of recovery, recovering woman, who has written some books. And if you haven't checked them out, check them out. She's been around since the 80s, so she is a guru in my industry, what we like to kindly refer to as a dinosaur, which I am now one too. Yes, from the Meadows. Awesome. The Meadows is like the premier treatment center, one of the premier treatment centers, and definitely in terms of treating addiction. Nice plug for the Meadows. Trauma and codependency. Pia Melody wrote a book called Facing Codependency, Facing Love Addiction. I'm sure she has a few others, but those are the two that I have read and shared with all my clients, and they're amazing. So if you've never seen it, Pia Melody. So she came up with this phrase that she shared, and pretty much everyone in my industry at some point has heard. She defines trauma as anything less than nurturing. On my last live, we went into some detail as we were talking about why you remember trauma so vividly when you're removed from it. And as I was talking about that, I also, there's a guy that looks like he's gonna run into my car. Did you see him? I'm so sorry. See, I am ADD. Anyway, so trauma, I started talking about how you can remember it. So trauma is remembered more vividly. Sorry, guys. I don't know what that was. I got no explanation. All of a sudden, my music popped up and said, hey, you want to listen to some music? So apparently, my iPhone is also ADD. Okay. Thank you, Wesley, for acknowledging Pia. I always acknowledge her and give her credit for this statement. I use it in all of my lectures and training about trauma. So when you're removed from a trauma, the reason you remember it better is now you're safe. So I want you to think about if you were abused as a child, or if you were in the war, any war, or any assault, physical, emotional, spiritual abuse that you encountered throughout your life. Especially if it was in childhood and all of a sudden you start remembering in your 30s and 40s, there's a reason for that. Your brain has protected you, okay? So it's repressed the information so that you could survive in that moment what was happening to you, and you remember it later when the time comes that you feel safe. So hi Sublimal. Everything's good. Thank you. I'm everywhere. Yes, I am. Thank you. So, and I'm glad it makes sense, Brenda. So I want you to think about, people will tell you at this stage of your life, if you're in your mid 30s, 40s, 50s, like I am, they'll start saying, oh my God, why are you still thinking about that? That was a long time ago. You should forget it. No, that's probably when you're remembering it the most, with the most certainty and the most emotional charge. Because when you were young and you had any kind of violence, any kind of abuse that occurred to you, you couldn't feel those emotions at that time because it would have been life-threatening. You would have hit a depression to the point of suicide, or you would have endangered yourself in the situation that you are because that person was trying to control you and not wanting you to have any expression of emotion. So thank you for listening, Kim. I'm glad that you like it. Hi, George. So I hope that helps you to understand why your trauma is coming up now. And Connie says, yes, it actually doesn't even come out until you're 40. Yeah, for some people it's different. Some people can tackle it all of a sudden in their 20s and 30s, but 40 seems to be a common place where all of a sudden that midlife crisis, things start happening in your life that activate that trauma. The other thing I wanted to say for you that are parents too is that sometimes when your children reach the age that you were abused, 5, 10, 15, all of that trauma comes back for you. They are like a living representation and a reminder of the age that you were when you were abused. So all of a sudden it floods back and becomes very vivid, okay? The reason that I titled it, hi, Beatrice and George, the reason that I titled it Anything Less Than Nurturing, which is Pia Melody's statement, is for those of you that identify with people that experience trauma. When you experience trauma, you carry a lot of shame, and it greatly impacts your self-esteem, right? And you feel less than, you feel not cared for, and you feel very vulnerable and very fragile. Well, with the definition, anything less than nurturing, it opens a door for all of us who maybe didn't have those very direct traumas like being assaulted or being abused verbally or physically, being raped, whatever your trauma is, trial by fire, maybe it's a natural disaster, okay? So those of you who look through your life inventory and say, I have all this shame, I have all this guilt. Hi, Nellie. Hey, Connie. So I have all this shame and I have all this guilt, but and identify with survivors of abuse. When they speak, I feel their pain and I feel similar, but I don't have those stories. You have the story of anything less than nurturing. If you look at your life story growing up and through your young adulthood and into your adult life and all of your relationships, if you've been treated less than nurturing, less than regarded, less than loved, less than cherished, less than cared for, then you have a feeling of trauma. It comes from a deep sense of abandonment and a deep sense of being told or being experienced as someone who doesn't matter to other people. So dig into yourself and look at that kind of definition and see if you better identify with that. Let me see what Tina's saying. I have so much inside and can keep it in. It's hard. It is so hard to keep anything traumatic to ourselves. I agree with that, Tina, and Connie's agreeing with you too. So what I want you to understand about trauma too is if you've experienced anything less than nurturing, have you also exhibited anything less than nurturing? Like, are you part of someone else's story about trauma? Think about that. Is how do you speak to other people in your life, your loved ones, family, friends, children? Have you ever used abusive language? Have you ever ignored their feelings? Have you ever told somebody to suck it up and get over it? I have. I will admit it. I certainly have. I tell myself that too, which is probably traumatizing myself. So people are like, oh, does everybody have trauma? Yeah. By this definition, we all have trauma. And the reason that we're talking about it is I want you to understand that when you have deep traumas, it opens up the door for the world of abuse to come back into your life. It's a pattern of repetitive abuse. So I want you to think about that. Let me read these comments. Subimal, I got bullied and beaten up during school until I worked hard to get my black belt. Hey, I have a black belt too. And then I didn't want to hit back. I have a black belt too, 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo. I got it as an adult. I always wanted to do that as a child, and I was also bullied when I was a kid, and that was my fantasy. And truth be told, once you learn martial arts teaches you about deflection, not defensiveness. Like walk away, talk away, run away. It's a beautiful thing. So it just teaches you to channel that energy. I encourage anybody that's had any kind of a trauma to get into some kind of martial arts to empower yourself physically, and it also helps to build back that self-esteem that's kind of been butchered by that assault. Todo lo malo que vive uno en la niñez lo marca por su vida. Yes, George is saying what happens in your childhood can mark you for life, can stay with you for life. Brenda and Nellie, abandonment issues got me into false love. I accepted the emotional abuse. And Wesley, what are you saying? I remember all other abuse and trauma, but have happened to me from 5 to 7, about 100% memory block. Will these stay gone, or does it take something to trigger it? Hey, so let's talk about that. And you got me for a couple of minutes. These are great questions. Thank you, Habibat. I feel like going somewhere far. Okay. That's good. Or is that you telling me that you dissociate, which is a way of leaving your body so that you don't deal with what's happening? Or maybe you just have a great sense of humor. So either way, thank you. Karen, this is making so much sense. Exactly what I was told when I was in rehab, dealt with in rehab, and by the grace of God, clean. Yay, 5 months, but trauma and abuse can really give you a major setback. Amen to that, Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm not ignoring you. I don't see well, but also when I start talking and the comments scroll, they jump up, and then I have to scroll back to catch them, and sometimes I miss. So don't ever take it personally if I'm not answering. Just keep bugging me. I'll see you at some point. Brenda, so sorry you went through that, Wesley. Absolutely. And oh, Habibi is depressed. Okay, not dissociating. I'm going to go back and answer Wesley and then Habibat. I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly. So depression sometimes comes too from carrying a history of shame and guilt and fear and rejection and abandonment and loneliness. So these are things that you need to go and make yourself active about. You need to go seek a counselor. If you don't have resources, there are free resources all over. You can go to any religious group and there's pastoral counselors, there's priests, there's Presbyterian, there's Judaic counselors that provide free services as well. Any local university, at least in the United States, has free counseling. There's family services, they're called family services of whatever city you are in, whatever state in the U.S. I can't speak for abroad. I don't know what social service systems are like abroad, but I can imagine that there are things in place, but you have to really activate that. The other way to relieve this trauma, the shame and the guilt and the depression that might come from trauma, is on a daily basis to feed yourself thoughts, comments, inspirational words of love and kindness and compassion. Listen to meditation tapes that feed you with positive affirmations. Listen to positive things on the radio. Don't get caught up in the drama of the television with all the sick, disgusting things that get reported there. Do small things, but the greatest tool to combat depression is mindfulness practices. It's either to do exercise. Yoga is a great one. Exercise is incredible. Doing meditation and just simply even walking. The way that you eat dramatically affects your body. So I'm talking about depression to help the Habibat, but also for all of you that trauma begets all of these mood disorders, anxiety and depression and OCD, and a lot of these disorders come from having experienced trauma. So if you start to just tackle the symptoms, you can manage the symptoms, but you got to get to the core root of what started it in the first place. And it's almost always trauma. I can say that with the 32 years experience I have in this, okay? So in this short live, I've just given you a short kind of description of trauma, why you might be remembering it more. I just gave you a few little tools right now to deal with the depression that might come from. But when I go live again on Thursday, what I'd like to do is tackle more. What can you do? How do you deal with this? I want you to know that trauma doesn't go away. You might repress it and suppress it, Wesley, and that's okay. You don't have to remember every single event. Your mind will bring forth what it wants to dump out, like taking out the trash. Like when it gets too stinky, there's a saturation port where that trash has to go out, right? That's how trauma works. There is a point where things inside of you have to get resolved, and they will keep coming up until you resolve them. You don't need to dig to find out every single traumatic experience that you had. Some of them, get buried for a reason. Okay, your mind works to accept what is unacceptable, but your mind also works to heal itself. So if your mind doesn't think it's in the best interest of you to heal certain traumatic events, then it will keep it hidden from you, it will keep it repressed, and it'll keep it filed away. For the most part, you have a theme. You have a feeling and an experience of, I know I went through certain things. I can't quite remember what they are, but they make me feel uncomfortable, like when I'm around a certain person in my family. That's enough information for you to utilize to deal with it as a traumatic event. I don't know, like example, I don't know what my uncle did, but I know whenever I'm around him, the hairs on the back of my head stand up and I feel gross. My stomach feels nauseous. That's a cue, okay? That's a physical symptom. The body remembers. So you're having what we call psychosomatic experience, where the body is remembering something that the conscious mind doesn't. So I want you to just use those cues as a way to safeguard yourself and have boundaries and just say, you know what? I don't know why I feel nauseous next to this guy, or I don't know why I feel nauseous next to my cousin or aunt or whoever, but I need to keep some distance from them because something in my body tells me that they're not right for me, and that's enough, okay? So you guys, thank you. There's tons of comments here. These are amazing. When I was a child, I don't live with my, thank you. I just cry all the time. I have one to talk to, stressed out of my life. I'm going to go back and read all these comments because I got to head into the office now to see clients. I appreciate you so much listening in. I know this is a heavy subject. And thank you for wishing me a belated Mother's Day. And you're welcome, Habibat. Thank you guys for chiming in, Brenda and Tina and all of you that commented. I will look back at these. I don't want to miss them. I'll do my very best. Please come back on Thursday and I'll talk more about how you can process these things, how you can deal with them, what are some good tools that you can utilize on a daily basis to let go of your trauma. So the story of trauma is when you remember it, to experience it, to grieve it, to feel all your emotions about it, and then to let it go and not live in it. So don't let your trauma force you to live in your past. Find a way to release it, accept it, and let go of it so that you can remain in the present and be the person that you want to be, not limited by that trauma, okay? So I thank you all so very much. I have to run. I hope I see you Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This is Gina on Ask Gina. God bless you all.